Breaking news tonight here at 6. Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States, has died at the age of 100. Good Sunday evening. Thanks for being with us. I'm Priscilla Casper. Carter's death comes after an announcement last year that he had decided to enter hospice care and spend his remaining time at home with his family. NBC's Mark Barger has more on Carter's legacy.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
Jimmy Carter personified the American dream, rising from farm life in the rural South to become the 39th president of the United States. He was born and raised in the small hamlet of Plains, Georgia. After serving in the U.S. Navy, he returned home to Plains and made a success of the family's peanut farm. He also met Rosalind Smith, the woman who became not only his wife, but his closest advisor. Carter began his political career as a Georgia state senator before winning the governorship.
The time for racial discrimination is over.
He ordered a portrait of Martin Luther King Jr. displayed in the Georgia Capitol.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
Carter's 1974 campaign for the White House began as the longest of long shots. In the wake of Watergate and Vietnam, his appeal as a straight-shooting Washington outsider grew, and he narrowly defeated Gerald Ford in 1976. The Carter presidency was highlighted by the Camp David Agreement, bringing a once unthinkable peace between Egypt and Israel. But economic recession and high interest rates crippled Carter's term in office, and the Iranian hostage crisis devastated it. Americans grew frustrated with Carter's handling of the situation, including an aborted rescue attempt that eroded confidence in his leadership. Republicans capitalized in 1980 as Ronald Reagan's sunny optimism ended Carter's re-election bid with a resounding victory. But from that defeat, a remarkable second act. Private citizen Carter began a new career, helping build homes for the poor in America, making Habitat for Humanity an international name, even while focusing on global humanitarian causes. In 2002, Jimmy Carter won the coveted Nobel Peace Prize. But in 2015, at the age of 90, he announced he was diagnosed with melanoma, which had spread to his brain.
But I was surprisingly at ease. You know, I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends.
Carter underwent cancer treatment and recovered, remaining active well into his 90s, teaching Sunday school at his South Georgia church. Even after suffering a series of falls, Carter's resilience allowed him to continue building homes for Habitat.
I'd say peace and human rights and treating everybody the same has been what I hope will be my legacy.
By the end of his life, Jimmy Carter had won the deep respect and admiration of not only Americans, but people around the world. Mark Barger, NBC News.
President Carter did have a connection to Massachusetts. Back in 1977, he stayed with the family at their home on Chestnut Street in Clinton after hosting a town hall meeting. The original homeowners left reminders of Carter's visit, including a plaque in the guest room where he stayed that reads, "President Carter slept here March 16, 1977. A reaction to Carter's death is pouring in tonight after that announcement from Bay Staters to state and federal leaders. Everyone is honoring the longest-lived president. Our NBC 10's Mary Marcos joining us live in Boston now with more on how he's being remembered. Mary.
Priscilla, everyone is mourning the loss here, and a historian tells me that Jimmy Carter served as a nuclear engineer aboard a nuclear submarine in the 1950s, and he says that he approached politics with an engineer's focus. Now, the 39th president of the United States has died at 100 years old. The former peanut farmer won the Oval Office in the wake of Watergate and the Vietnam War. He had been under hospice care since February in Georgia, where he lived with his late wife for most of their lives. His most acclaimed achievement in the office was an historic peace treaty between Israel and Egypt that's still in place today. A businessman, Navy officer, politician, and human rights activist, Boston University historian Thomas Whalen says he was the smartest president in the last 150 years.
People were beginning to lose tremendous faith in our political leaders and in just the effectiveness of the presidency. He promised voters that he would never tell a lie. And, you know, it sounds silly today, like, you know, if someone said that, you know, he'd be laughed off the stage. But people, after all the crises of the 60s and early 70s and the shocks, this was music to their ears.
Meanwhile, reaction is pouring in from both sides of the aisle. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey says President Carter lived a life dedicated to peace, human rights, democracy, and moral clarity. He set an enduring example of what it means to serve others, and his legacy will continue to inspire generations to come. And this quote from President Joe Biden: "Today, America and the world lost an extraordinary leader, statesman, and humanitarian. He saved, lifted, and changed the lives of people all across the globe." Meanwhile, President-elect Donald Trump also weighing in, saying, quote, "The challenges Jimmy faced as president came at a pivotal time for our country, and he did everything in his power to improve the lives of all Americans. For that, we all owe him a debt of gratitude." Now, Jimmy Carter is the first president to reach 100 years old, and historians say there are a lot of lessons we can glean from his legacy. Live in East Boston, Mary Marcos, NBC 10 Boston.
Yeah, definitely a lot of lessons. Mary, thank you. Be sure to stay with NBC 10 Boston for continuing coverage of the former president's death and services held in his honor. We'll bring you the latest developments on air and online.